Let's have some fun.
All right, thank you, Westborough TV. We will convene tonight's meeting in Town Hall, Memorial Hall, today being Tuesday, April 11th, and it being 6:03 p.m. We are holding this meeting hybrid, so I will read the following. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means, in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body as well as members of the public may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the location above, and it is possible that or all members of the public body may attend remotely with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed remotely via the link on the attached agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely as noted above. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Verizon Channel 28 and Charter Channel 192, or via Westborough TV's online platforms at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/Westborough TV. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded by Westborough TV. If you are able, please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And now we will be moving to the town manager's report.
Open forum.
Open forum, right. Pardon me. Is there anybody here for open forum? Thank you. Nope. Now we will be moving to the town manager's report.
Just letting you know that the Land Prioritization Committee is going to start meeting again. So I met with our new Conservation Director, Jennifer Miller, who had some thoughts and some experience related to this work. So I think she has a really great idea about an approach that the committee could take. So we have scheduled the meeting for Monday, May 1st. And just as a reminder, Ian is your representative on that committee.
And we look forward to having some direction
Yes.
to help us, so that'll be good.
There was a bill that was passed in the supplemental budget bill was passed on Wednesday, March 29th. Inclusive in that bill is the extension of the pandemic-related authorization, so that's why we're able to meet hybrid this evening. And then it also extends outdoor dining. As a reminder, the board did take a vote last year when we talked about outdoor dining that folks who were not on their way to working through the permanent process by December of 2022, the end of the month, they would not be available to them in the spring. I have reached out to the Community Development Office to see if there are people who are in a position where maybe they were not in that process, and it sounds like we don't have that. So we know that this is available to us in Westborough. We made that decision because we didn't want to be scrambling at the end, and we don't know. These continue to be extended. This is through March 31st of 2025, but we don't know. Nothing has been permanently put in place.
So, sorry, Christine,
Yeah.
have there been applicants to that process?
They're working through that. Through the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
So they have to do some site plan work, and so in addition, the the permission for to-go cocktails has been extended through April 1st of 2024. The Regional Dispatch Center, we did receive notice today from the town of Grafton. Both Westborough and Grafton received notice that last night the Southborough Select Board voted 2-1-2 to opt out of the intermunicipal agreement for the Regional Dispatch Center, which was signed earlier this year. As when Hopkinton withdrew, we'll work with the state to understand the impact to projected costs and savings and bring that information back to this board. The Golf Club Building Use Committee will meet, have its first meeting on April 24th at the Golf Club. And included on that agenda is a tour of the building. So, The Otis Street corridor funding, so we did receive, as you're all aware, significant funding from the state, and which we're very appreciative of for the Otis Street corridor project. That was initially estimated to be about $6 million. The money, we did receive $2 million from MassDOT, $2 million through MassWorks, another $500,000 through our Complete Streets application, and then this board has awarded $250,000 of our ARPA funds, which still leaves us a little short for that project. So we have been reaching out to the state. We have a meeting with MassDOT on Thursday to try to understand additional opportunities for funding. And today we also submitted a request for additional funding through the MassWorks program, which, given the supplemental budget, we're hoping that that's available. So, for department head updates, in the fire department, it's National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. So the fire department is fortunate to have exceptional staff of dispatchers that are truly the first responders, and we're thankful for their impact. They are also taking delivery of a new breathing air compressor and fill station this week to support the self-contained breathing apparatus infrastructure that firefighters use in environments that are immediately dangerous to life and health. That's supported by a $64,000 grant that was obtained through FEMA and Homeland Security. The fire department is also participating in a sensory-friendly safety day with other municipal departments on Saturday, April 15th from 11 to 1 at the Hastings School. The Public Works Department welcomed a new employee, Cody Slamman, to the sewer division. They've established a tree grove with seeding out by Chauncey Lake. So that's complete. Aside from the trees, materials used were left over from other projects. A total of 30 trees were planted as part of our spring planting program, including 7 through Adopt a Tree. Several were planted along Route 30 at the Westborough Grafton Town Line and 2 at Mill Pond School. Prior to their April sector maintenance cycle kickoff for the spring-summer period, the DPW completed a public infrastructure resiliency week. So the last week of March every year will be dedicated to ensuring pump stations and off-road easements are best prepared to withstand severe weather events by completing inspections and, if necessary, removing debris and hazardous trees and other things. MassDOT awarded the town a dynamic speed feedback and school zone speed limit sign assembly, which is over $10,000 in value. And so following submission of an application by Derek Sari and Joe Bocadero, the signs are anticipated to be installed in front of the Phil School on Eli Whitney. The Board of Health has issued a cease and desist to Hunan Kitchen for operating without the appropriate permitting approval, and we're waiting for them to reach out to talk about rectifying the issue. Camps and pool permitting have begun, and the impact melanoma dispensers, which were discussed in our newsletter, segue, to our next agenda item, have been placed at 8 of our playgrounds and parks, and then permit applications should be up and running on Permit Pro soon. In community development, conservation, in collaboration with WCLT, they've presented to 2 6th grade classrooms. The department's also working on DCR's land grant program related to getting their reimbursement for the Ruggles purchase, the Ruggles Street property purchase. And then they are also working with Woodard and Kern on that study that we had funded a year or so ago related to Lake Chauncey. They've also applied for 2 different studies conducted by the Yukon Tab Summer MAP program related to the Hockomock Pond property. And then economic development has partnered with Up Next to launch a pop-up in downtown incubator space at 57 East Main Street, Unit 129. They're also working with the Garden Club on downtown beautification. And their applications are live for the Inclusive Recovery Grant Program administered by Massachusetts Growth Capital Corporation with federal grants allocated through the Economic Development Bill. This allows for up to $75,000 in grant funds available to small businesses negatively impacted by COVID. The application closes April 28th. And then finally, the EDC attended the annual business expo by the Corridor 495 Chamber of Commerce on Tuesday, April 4th to showcase Westborough. That's it.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the introduction of the quarterly newsletter.
So Owen Page from our office, who is our management analyst / communications assistant, is here to give a presentation. because he did most of the work on the newsletter.
Good evening, members of the Select Board. So I'm here to talk very briefly about the publication that went out last week, actually a week ago tonight, the Town Manager's Quarterly Newsletter. Basically, this is kind of part of a branching series of items related to overall communications and improving communications between the town and the public. There was a communications plan implemented in 2018 by the town manager, and then when I came on in late 2022, one of the priorities established by the town manager for me to work on was a quarterly newsletter to be issued at the conclusion or at the start of each quarter. So what I did was I looked at how other towns do it, which is kind of the standard for what I do mostly in my role. Looked at a number of our comparison communities, as well as a number of communities outside of those groups and even outside of the state, to see how people do it, what their formatting is, what they prioritize, and how they best transmit their information. Put together a draft using Canva, the free version of Canva, so very much did this to save as much money as possible, and we'll talk a little bit later, or I will explain a little later about potential other options. The town manager and I worked together to find a layout that we liked, identify the departments we wanted to highlight, and then kind of I dove in and started putting it together. So we established the front page, nice view of Town Hall. This is kind of the spring image that we decided to use with the calendar of events. Linked at the bottom of the page are the town socials, as well as some other, where Town Hall is and the welcome from the town manager. Going forward, this will probably look a little bit different. However, this was a good kind of starting point. We felt established a lot of things that we wanted to start with and brought people into the newsletter for the first time. And then the interior kind of consists of a number of the same layout pages, 2 or 3 departments per page. Organized using color coding to differentiate, and especially in the case of certain departments, highlight what that department's about. I believe the police department was highlighted in blue just to kind of reinforce the imagery of it. You'll also notice the Did You Know sections as well, which we felt was a great way to establish some baseline information as well as links to important stuff. I know we have a number of vacancies on some boards and committees. We highlighted those as well. Throughout. So the idea there was, let's just get people on the website engaging and trying to bring in more material in front of their eyes. In the final page, basically we wanted to highlight some new hires. In future editions, we also want to look at employees of the month here as well, to kind of highlight, put faces to names as well with town staff, show all the great work that they're doing. And then at the conclusion, more links. The idea was to establish a baseline for people to learn, and then put them, allow them or push them into areas where they could learn more without burdening their eyes with the newsletter. We wanted to keep it concise, but accessible and easy to branch out from. I think moving forward, with the rollout, we rolled it out a week ago tonight. We've already had some great feedback from a number of people. I think a number of you were very kind to say how much you liked it. So thank you very much. But we also wanted to continue to improve it. We did receive some feedback, some changes that we were able to make. Given the formatting that we're using right now, it's really easy to make those changes because it's just a document that we can re-upload whenever we need to change anything, fix anything. We made a few kind of quick visual changes and can continue to do so moving forward. Currently, we have about 1,030 people signed up. That's as of this afternoon. 72 of those were unique to after the rollout, so they signed up as soon as it went out or shortly thereafter. That's pretty good. That's about 10 a day so far. We can continue to grow that. We did pull from an existing list, which is the town news and alerts, and so the idea is now whenever people who are signed up for that receive an alert, they will also get the newsletter. Moving forward, we're going to kind of work with departments to figure out and identify what we should be pushing forward versus maybe holding back on, if it's an important season, say election season, we want to highlight kind of that, or town meeting, there's another kind of component we're considering. In terms of putting it together, I did this on Canva. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that application. That's an application I learned about only last year, so I've been really enjoying the opportunity to get to work a lot more in that. There are some other options that we've discussed. However, they are all paid, and I figured at least for the time being, if I could get this done for free, that kind of makes it good in my opinion, keeps the budget even tighter. And so there are some other options, but I feel that the final product worked very well and was received very well, so I don't feel the need to kind of delve into that unless there's a major change identified or that's a desire that is put forth. In addition to the quarterly aspect of it, the town manager and I have also discussed putting together potentially some special editions to highlight, kind of town-wide issues or town-wide events such as town meeting, highlighting the warrant, highlighting elections, the budget processes, committee results, or major documents. So that's all of that kind of at the end there is still very nebulous. Hard to say exactly what any of that would look like, but we do have an initial template and initial draft to work with. It was a lot of work on my end and Christy's end to put this together, but I was very proud of what we accomplished. The feedback has been very good so far, and we definitely have a great template to work from moving forward. And if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, no questions, just it looks fantastic. I've received some of that feedback. Probably haven't passed it along, but I will hear that it's, it was anticipated and hoped for, and now it's here, and folks love it. So thank you for all of that work, and I think having a consistent approach for a while and see what works makes sense. And so congratulations, this is super. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, same thing. Actually, I do have one question, but I'll hit that at the end. Comments, like Shelby, I've heard very positive comments. In fact, scary positive in some sense. This is really good. The calendar's great. Do you think you can put it out monthly? So, something to think about. But no, I think it was people really enjoyed it. They liked the push. We put this stuff and we've tried to improve the website. We're going to improve the website, but having that push, I think, was very much appreciated. So, my question, though, is you've gotten a lot of comments. Has there been anything, in terms of like areas of improvement, anything, I don't want to call it negative, but anything that said, hey, you could do this, or things that maybe you're thinking about from after this first release?
I think just my initial thought was, I think before it goes out, absolutely ascertain that everything in there is where it's supposed to be. I think that, that's kind of a point of pride on my end, and would absolutely maintain the highest standard going forward with that. I think in terms of moving forward, I would definitely like to put more images in there, and that does kind of require a bit more of the contributors and myself. However, there's a lot to highlight in the town, and I know we're very active on social media, but when you put out a publication like this, people like to see the town. They like to see people that they know. They like to see what we're accomplishing. And I think that would definitely be a focus, and that's something that we can discuss kind of and drill down a bit more moving forward.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think that there's also been, it's we have the town manager report, so it's really trying to create that sort of separation. What appropriately goes in that report versus the quarterly newsletter, because it is quarterly. When I first was at a workshop when they were talking about it, I shouldn't even say this, but it was a weekly newsletter. So we thought we'll start with quarterly and then feel that out and see where it goes. But we'll have to sort of figure out that if the special editions are coming all the time and it's not making a lot of sense, we'll have to figure out the cadence that works.
All I'm hearing is weekly. Thanks.
No, thank you. This is fabulous. I do newsletters for my business. I know how challenging it is to get the content and then get it to fit. Right? The joke is that the New York Times is all the news that fits the print. The newsletter is all the news that fits in the print, right? You have to work it in the layout. It's visually attractive and easy to read, and wow, a lot of information. So it's very good. Thank you.
Patrick, how about you?
Yeah, I guess I just a couple of quick questions. First of all, I will say I was really pleasantly surprised to see this, and it's great to see it out there. And all the folks that I pointed to have had nothing but fantastic reviews. So thank you for doing the work and the information. I found some information that I didn't know in there for sure. So it's great to have had that. I guess a couple of questions. I guess my first question is it kind of the intent that we'll roll departments through this as relevant information on a quarterly basis comes up, or, so that every department is highlighted, or at least information is provided, a couple times a year from each department? How do you envision that working for the departments?
I think we have to think through what makes sense, because some departments, like, finance doesn't have an article. They have deadlines that they show us. We'll have to think through, that's kind of how we did it this time, but does it make sense to make it more sort of article driven, as opposed to having every department reporting? This time we did reach out to all the departments and ask for, feedback or special events or things like that. So I guess still thinking through that.
Okay. And then kind of a similar question, I noticed the school was in there, so it was great to see some information about the school. Do you anticipate or envision that other boards would also have information? Would they be also tapped on the shoulder for kind of what's happening in their space, whether it be the planning board or Sustainable Westborough or any of the town board, the other boards and committees?
I think we welcome other boards that have something. I think my concern was that we weren't just sort of reporting to report, that there's value added. So, I could see, for example, the Cultural Council doing something as we're going into the fall, making sure that that's on there. And Sustainable Westborough, I knew about this event, so I wanted to make sure that they were included. So I do think that that's probably true with departments as well as committees, which is that we don't want to report just to report. We want to have some value to that story.
Sure, absolutely, that makes sense. And then I guess a final question is kind of on a very specific one. I was really pleasantly surprised. I'd never heard of this program of putting sunscreen out in the public for the town, so I thought that was a great idea. But I have one of my daughters is actually very allergic to certain ingredients in sunscreen, so I'm just curious, do we know if the ingredients for the sunscreen will be provided at each one of those 8 locations? Just because I would just be concerned that if a parent wants to know if there's something in there that their child might react to.
Absolutely. I think that I couldn't say that's going off of what we were given. That would be a great question for record Board of Health.
Just something to consider as the products put out there.
Absolutely.
If there's any ability to put those ingredients, I think it would be a good idea, just so folks have a certain level of comfort of what they're putting on their skin.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It was done through a program with the state, so we would have to follow up with Board of Health to know that answer.
Okay.
This is all natural, but still, having the ingredients is good.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Good stuff. Thank you.
Owen, fantastic job. I think it's great that over 1,000 folks are getting this already. If you historically have maybe shied away from the town website, what would be the easiest way for somebody to obtain a copy? Could they reach out to us by email? It seems like an easy way to sign up is the link through the document.
Yeah, there's also, the sign up is also available through the website. That is something that we've also discussed, is potentially having some sort of physical copy available on request as well. We could do that through our office very easily. However, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that might be lost in the event of a physical document is the links, when that was a big point of emphasis to kind of make sure that, bring people in as opposed to keep people out, as it were. But yeah, that's absolutely something we can drill down even further ahead of the next rollout, is just make sure that it's advertised and noticed wherever we can.
Awesome.
Just one follow-up, because this is available online, is it translatable? Do you know offhand at this time?
I'd have to look.
Okay.
And
Well-
to the extent of my knowledge, if there's a way to do it with PDFs, then yes.
Okay.
However, I don't personally have a ton of experience with
Sure.
with translating apps in
Well,
that
again,
regard.
as we think about opportunities going
Yeah.
forward, we might think about how do we offer that.
Mhm.
I know that, the website is
Yeah.
translatable, but
Doesn't
that
apply to
might be
that.
something to look into.
Mhm.
And, maybe that's a future, request,
Great.
for funding.
Great.
Yeah, that would most likely be, we could most likely handle that through some sort of software upgrade or addition.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Owen.
Nice
Well
job.
done.
Great job. Well done.
Thank you.
Next, we have a request to close Jasper Street on May 6, 2023 from Nurse Farm.
Good evening. David Nurse, 80 Nurse Street. We've done this a number of times in the past in connection with, first of all, the Farm Heritage Day back in 2017. We've also been involved in all of the Westborough Unplugged events since they started. Jasper Street, as you know, runs between Route 30 and West Main Street. It provides parking for those who are coming to the event. On the farm, we really do not have parking at this time of year. Fields are too wet to permit parking, and they're being cultivated. So it's desirable from our standpoint if the road can be closed. The date is May the 6th. The time would be noon to 4 p.m. Westborough Connects will provide patrolmen for both ends of the street. In fact, it's not the West Main Street end of it. It's really up at Brewer, Benjamin rather. So it's just the portion of the street within the farm. The chief, to whom I submitted this request, didn't have any problem with it, but he thought the select board might have to approve it. So here I am tonight to seek your approval for something that I think can be done safely with Westborough Connect's assistance, and is for a limited period of 12 to 4 on May the 6th of this year.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Motion?
Motion.
Actually, one quick question. When the road is closed, you'll be using the closed portion of the road for parking?
Yes, both sides.
I guess my only suggestion would be maybe some signs, or as people enter, to have people angle park rather than just parallel
You
parking.
can, well, I suppose it could. Actually, that takes up a lot of the street if they're angular parking. And by and large, in the past, parallel parking has worked pretty well.
Okay. I was just thinking you'd fit more cars in.
We haven't really needed that. The
Okay.
street is long enough that we've been able to take all comers.
Okay, great.
But thank you for that suggestion.
Well, hopefully this year it isn't enough, right?
Hopefully well.
All goes well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take a motion.
So I move to approve the temporary road closure of Jasper Street from North Street to Benjamin Drive to vehicular traffic on May 6, 2023, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
I think it's great.
Roll call vote. Patrick, would you like to go first?
Welch, yes.
Johnson, yes?
Edinburgh, yes?
Marshall, yes?
Keo, yes. Mr. Nurse, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll see you on Saturday.
Okay. Item number 5, support for House Bill 74, Senate Bill 34, an act to modernize funding for community media programming. Hello.
Good evening. Steve Hart, as some of you know, I'm Chair of the Board of Westborough TV. I'm here with our General Manager, Karen Henderson, and you've very kindly already sort of said everything I was going to say, which is that we seek support for these two bills. And I'm now going to hand over a few brief points and technical detail to Karen.
That's great. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of history, you, a year ago or so, were nice enough to send a letter in support of a streaming bill that was in a previous session in front of the legislature. That never came to vote. As you know, they have a lot of bills that come before them, and some of them don't end up vote. So it did not get voted on. It's not that it got voted down, it just never came to vote. And so they repackaged it a little bit for this session, the same basic structure for that bill, but they changed the name. It's still kind of a long name with the, it's the exact name, where did I put it?
Yep.
An act to modernize funding for community media programming. It's still long, but that's really what we're trying to do, is modernize that funding. And so, along with a little bit of the history, I thought I'd point out that the Mass Department of Telecommunications and Cable keeps track of cable subscriber counts across the state. That's available on their website. The 2022 numbers just came out, and you can look at the history for any town. But across the state, year over year, there was a 10% drop in cable subscribers. And in Westborough, we've had over 35% drop in the past 5 years. So that's important to note, as I know you know, I don't know if everyone at home knows, but cable subscribers is how local access gets paid. So that determines in our contracts how much we are going to take in to support our local cable operations. So that kind of a drop year after year after year. Again, I always feel like the slow trickle, although 35% in 5 years isn't really a slow trickle, but kind of works against us because we're working so hard to keep providing our services, and that revenue just keeps slowly decreasing to the point at which I get very concerned about whether or not we can continue to provide those services to the town. So my request to you would be to forward a letter to the, so it's the Advanced Information Technology, Internet, and Cybersecurity Joint Committee. And they go by the AITIC, which is a lot easier. And they will be the joint committee that will be hearing this bill. A good piece of information for us is that our senator, Senator Moore, is actually the chair of that committee. He is also a co-sponsor on the bill and is supportive. We just talked to him this morning again about it. So that's great news for the bill itself. Our other reps, both Kate Donahue and Hannah Kane, have both signed on as co-sponsors also. So the good news for Westborough is that our representatives are very aware of the need to support this kind of bill to keep the funding available for us. And one thing, I bring up those cable subscriber numbers because to me, it seems very clear that the viewing habits have shifted. Those media viewing habits have shifted from cable to streaming services. When somebody decides they don't want cable anymore, it's not because they've decided they're just going to give up TV altogether or screens. They're just getting that information from a different source. And my feeling is that the funding should then just shift as well. So that's all we're really looking to do, is shift the funding from cable to streaming. That's what this bill would do. One other comment to let you know, when we talked to Senator Moore this morning, he was at my office because he's on the 01581, which is a shameless plug for Shelby Marshall's new show, but it's very informative, and he was on there this morning and just said that the bill probably won't be heard in front of that joint committee until June or July. That was his estimate. So I guess I would just request that you could send the letter now, but it's possible you'll hear more from us when we get an actual committee hearing date. So just don't be surprised in a couple months if it comes up again and you think, well, wait a minute, didn't this happen already? And that's really all I have.
Yeah, I think that hopefully that sums it up for you. I think just one other thing is that Massachusetts is not the first state to look at this. Other states have already gone through this and have successfully brought about a bill whereby they are getting this money, and we feel that it's something to be supported. And as Karen says, without it, we will be back here to discuss the future of Westborough TV.
That's all we've got for you tonight.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay.
No, I have no questions. Very supportive of it, though.
Absolutely.
So I would move to authorize the chair to send a letter of support to the Joint Committee on Advanced Information Technology, the Internet, and Cybersecurity on behalf of the board as presented.
Second?
All right,
And
any
when
other
you said that
questions?
AITIC.
Roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Edinburgh, yes?
Marshall, yes.
Keough, yes. 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thanks. Yeah, we really appreciate the support we get in town, so thank you so much.
We support all that you
appreciate
guys
you.
do, exactly.
All right, next, we have a Class 1 dealer's license application for Herb Chambers Lincoln.
Good late afternoon, good evening. I never know what it is, ever since you moved up, which is now years, the meeting, it used to be good evening. Anyway, I'm William Bloom, I'm an attorney in Westborough. I'm representing Herb Chambers of Norwood in connection with the application for Class 1 license for a new Lincoln dealership on 75 Otis Street. Some of you have been around long enough on this board, have seen me over and over and over and over again over the years in terms of the development of that Otis Street and Turnpike Road corner, the three dealerships that are there, the Ford, the Infiniti, the Hyundai became the Nissan, and now we're looking to convert that to a Lincoln dealership. I'm here today with Peter Hearn. Peter is the general manager. And he can answer any questions you might have regarding dealership types of issues. I think it's pretty straightforward. Herb Chambers has other Class 1 licenses in town. This is an opportunity to bring a new brand into town, and one that Peter could speak more to, but they think will be here long-term versus the last two dealerships that, for economic reasons, and conditions out there, did not work out. The application has been filed. I believe that all the department heads that were asked for opinions have responded affirmatively to the issuance of the license. So we would ask. We're happy to answer any questions, but we would ask the board to take a vote to approve the Class 1 license.
Thank you. Questions?
I'd actually be interested real quickly to what Attorney Bloom said about the dealership, why you think it'll be successful, and I guess first, give you a chance to speak on that, and a little free advertising maybe going forward. Second, also, just a question is, I'm assuming the building itself is going to stay as is, or are there enhancements, changes anticipated for the?
The second one, let me just quickly answer. For now, the building is going to remain exactly the same. There may be some cosmetic work on the interior of the building to fit it out as a Ford dealership versus what was a Nissan dealership, but that's been neutered over the last few years since the dealership went out. But beyond that, there are likely to be required revisions, changes to the site. Nothing major, but in terms of the branding for Lincoln. The building was built originally to Hyundai specs, then it was built to Nissan specs. Now it needs to look like a Lincoln dealership. And so that will come later.
Okay.
But the Herb Chambers organization is looking to get that dealership up and running. And that's in accordance with the agreement that they have with Ford Motor Company, which is to start selling cars as soon as possible, with the fit out to come at a later time.
Perfect, thank you.
Peter, in terms of
Sure. In terms of my experience, I've been with Lincoln for 37 years. I used to own my own dealership until I was acquired in a business transaction with Herb in 2015. So I have great hopes for this location, and I'm a big fan of the brand, and I think the area is ready for this type of product. There was a store in Shrewsbury that closed because he didn't want to do a facility enhancement, and there was a dealership in Framingham that closed down years ago. So we feel it's the right market for Lincoln. Lincoln Motor Company feels it's the right market as well. They're very, very, very big proponent of us taking over this location, and we're looking forward to being in the town.
Great, thank you.
No questions?
No, excited to have you here, and it is a long way to go to look for a Lincoln, so it will be nice to have one here, so.
Thank you.
Well, excuse me one second, just a better comment that Peter made to me earlier today looking at the weather outside today, I'm a ragtop guy, and I don't have one now. He tells me that they may be coming through Lincoln, so that would be a plus, personal plus.
Sounds good, sounds good. Patrick, any questions, or?
No, I'll just say welcome. Looking forward to see the dealership get up and running. Thank you.
Thank you. I did see in our packet that Fred had a couple items. I don't know if that's been updated.
Sila, did you receive any updates?
Do you mean his comment for?
Yeah, so this was from the 4th. It just said they're currently working with the building department in regards to, and there was a couple, I think, of minor items.
So that's the same that was submitted to the.
Yeah, what I
I did
did,
recommend we issue the license, though, but, okay.
Mr. Keough, what I can represent to the board is there was a meeting earlier this afternoon. Fred Leonardo met with Peter and with John Welch, who's also with the Herb Chambers organization. And the email I received was everything is going to be approved. Change of occupancy needs, is what Fred has been dealing with, as well as the fire department had some inspection considerations that have all been dealt with. So-
Excellent. I did see here that Fred still recommended that we issue the license. So can I get a motion?
Sure. I move to issue a 2023 Class 1 dealer license to Herb Chambers of Norwood, Inc., DBA Herb Chambers Lincoln at Westborough at 75 Otis Street with the following conditions and restrictions. Total limit of 415 spaces as designated on the parking plans approved by the Select Board, consisting of 290 vehicles for inventory storage, 105 vehicles for employees and customers, and 20 display vehicles dedicated to this dealership's operations. In addition, up to 42 spaces as designated on the parking plans approved by the Select Board are to be utilized by Herb Chambers Infinity of Westborough for auxiliary use, consisting of 25 inventory storage vehicles and 17 customer and employee parking.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Edinburgh, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Keough, yes. Gentlemen, thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Good luck and welcome.
I'm curious,
Thank you all.
how quickly will it take to, what is the timeline, assuming permits and all that go through? How quickly?
Well, the question would be, how quick can we get that license? We're ready to go.
Okay.
Infrastructure's ready to go. I have inventory in Norwood at our other location, ready to come up, so,
Okay.
it's, you
So
folks
this,
tell
the
us,
spring is like,
spring is now,
All right.
it's our market.
So we
Okay.
approved, so we can,
Yep,
how
good.
quickly is, Sila?
I can put it in the mail tomorrow, you'll have it before the end of the week.
Would it be all right if we picked it up?
If you could come tomorrow afternoon, I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Only, we have to submit it to the registry for dealer plates and a couple other things, so that would be a big help.
After 12 p.m. tomorrow.
Great, that would be terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
all.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Good luck.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have approval of the Sustainability Coordinator Community Development Assistant job description and amendments to the classification plan.
So this is following up on the approval of the community development budget at town meeting, which included funding for this position. We wanted to get the job description approved and the classification plan amended so that we can get this job posted for a start date of July 1st. So this position was one, as you all know, that we had considered last year, and at the time had developed the job description and brought it to Sustainable Westborough. They reviewed it. We made some minor changes to it since then, following along, with Pete Dunbeck giving some input. And so our recommendation is to approve it as drafted. It would be a position grade of H4 with a salary range of $64,418 to $86,943.
And that is salary not benefited. right?
Correct.
Right, thank
Yep.
you.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I was just saying, I'm excited to see this come forward. I think it's a great blend and totally appropriate for this position, so appreciate all the work to get it to this point, and I have no questions or comments on the description, which is probably surprising. I know. No red lines.
Great job.
No periods, no commas, so no, it's great. Thank you very much for all the work.
If I may, Sean?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so as the representative on Sustainable Westborough, I just say that the committee is very excited about this position moving forward. It's something that the committee has been looking forward to and working on and understanding since before my time on the board. I think it's been at least 3 years, if not 4 years, that I'm aware of, that they've been looking to fulfill this. And all the information I've seen from other communities that have created this position, it's a really exciting time for the town to have this position. So I wholeheartedly support this, and I appreciate Christy and Kim putting the work into writing up the description and bringing this before us, and certainly working on the budget to help make this happen. So thank you very much, and I hope everyone.
It absolutely was a outcome or a goal of the climate action plan, and certainly we've been talking about it for years. Just to give a little more detail for folks who don't know, this position would sit inside the Community Development Department, reporting to Fred Leonardo, our Community Development Director. Had a lot of conversations with Pete Dunbeck as the chair of the Sustainable Westborough of kind of how we'll make that transition of all that work that committee does, which is very active and very dedicated, to having now a staff person. So, that's a.
It'll be an evolution. I mean, we
It
saw that
is,
we
yes.
saw that with
Yeah.
economic development. I mean, it's a great example where it was so needed, and there were there's that natural, how do you balance the seesaw?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I was like, oh. And anyway, but very excited that, it's here, and I think that will be, I'm sure the committee will love that once they sort of get into a cadence with that staff person.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
All right, I move to approve the Sustainability Coordinator/Community Development Assistant job description as presented, and to add the position of the town's classification plan.
Second?
Roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes?
Johnson, yes?
Edinburgh, yes?
Marshall, yes.
Keo, yes. All right. All right. Kim, thank you very much.
Hope we get a lot of interest. I think we will.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
Although that's also a plug for lots of other positions open too, right?
Yes.
If that one doesn't suit you, there are others.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
So next, we have a request for extension to comply with the plastic reduction bylaw. Should I list these all, or I guess? I just want, okay. They include Cumberland Farms at 55 East Main Street, Harry's Restaurant at 149 Turnpike Road, Main Street Pastries and More at 135 Turnpike Road, Papagino's at 164 Milk Street, Red Barn Coffee at 21 South Street, Red Heat Tavern at 227 Turnpike Road, Swansky's Bake Shop at 73 East Main Street, Tatnuck Bookseller and Cafe at 18 Lyman Street, The Coop Wings and Barbecue, 32 West Main Street, Veg Out at Nurse Farm, 80 Jasper Street, Woodlands Vegetarian Restaurant, 290 Turnpike Road, Suite 180. I don't know if that list is inclusive of everyone, or?
Is that everybody?
It is. All right.
I would just comment that all of these businesses requesting the waiver have sent in information about the fact that they're requesting the waiver in compliance with the process, and that they're demonstrating that they have inventory they'd like to use up, as well as difficulty finding compliant replacements. So.
Yeah, and then just to add, so Board of Health has been doing some outreach since this was passed in October, understanding that it would come into effect. I think, as I think you've noted, it's more complex than the initial plastic bag bylaw, and so my recommendation would certainly be to give them that time.
Yeah, fully supportive of that, and I really appreciate the work that the Board of Health has done, and to conduct that outreach, and the engagement of the businesses to be, timely with their submissions, so. That's good.
Can I get a motion?
I'll move pursuant to the Select Board's authority under Article 33, Section 4 of the Westborough General Bylaws to exempt the list that was quoted by Select Board Member Keough from the October 2022 amendments to the plastic reduction bylaw for a period of 6 months or October 17th, 2023.
I'll second.
Okay, and I was a little quick there. Any comments or questions?
I would just ask the public to be mindful that there is this process, and if they're going into any of these restaurants, to be kind and to understand that there is a process, and if they're going to an establishment that hasn't been identified or hasn't contacted the board, that they can certainly encourage them to do so. So we're all working, I think, in the same direction here.
No, agreed. The town made these changes for the long-term good.
Right.
I think in the short term, it's okay. It's a business decision for folks.
Right.
So with that, roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Edinburgh, yes?
Marshall, yes.
Keough, yes. All right, thank you. Next, we have the Massachusetts Shelter at Lyman Street. Some updates.
Oh, sorry. So I did give you a hard copy of a letter that was put together by myself, the Superintendent Bach, and both chiefs, so Chief Laurie and Chief Purcell. Our intention was to send this letter under our signature. We welcome the board signing on to the letter as well as the school committee if they choose to. Essentially, and I apologize, it's actually missing this draft, which it is a draft because it doesn't have who we're sending it to, is actually missing a paragraph about the impact to our fire EMS services. So that's also included, and I'm happy to give you more information about that. But we have been meeting with the state, and our position with them has always been that, we understand that that homelessness in Massachusetts is something that, we want to support and be helpful in, and Westborough, we tell them all the time, Westborough stands ready to do our part. Our concern is that in addition to the shelter that's being proposed, which would home 20 families, we also currently house 66 homeless families in our extended stay hotels. And we have no commitment from the state that those hotels will not be backfilled once those families are moved to the shelter. There are 16 identified municipalities in the Commonwealth that are providing solutions for the state in terms of homeless families being located in these towns, cities and towns. But there are 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth. And so, we've tried to offer maybe creative solutions. If you have a community maybe that doesn't have a hotel that is available. But our message is clear that we are happy to be helpful and to partner, but it can't be disproportionately impacting Westborough or any community. So that's really the focus of the letter. And our intention would be to send it. My understanding is that they are working on appointing a Secretary of Housing. So this initial letter would actually be addressed to the governor, copying our delegation, of course, and then sending it to that individual once they're appointed. I should also add that we just found out today, so our FAQ on the website says that the shelter is anticipated to open in May. I just found out from Representative Donahue today that now they're saying summer. We do have a meeting with them on Thursday at 1 o'clock. We do a regular meeting with them. I should add, the state has been really great in meeting with us and communicating with us. We're just concerned about this potential disproportionate impact.
Chris, can I?
Yes, please.
So I presume that this is not the first time that this disproportionate impact concern is being communicated. This has been a topic of conversation during meetings, I presume?
Yes, this would be the first time it's put in writing.
Right. And I guess to date, if you can share, what has that response been?
I think, I guess the response has just been that they understand, they hear what we're saying, but they're unable to, at this time, commit to not backfilling the hotels, which is our concern.
Right. And so there are very few communities, well, I mean, there's only 16, so there are a lot of, I guess, what are our options beyond this letter? If they continue to backfill, or there aren't?
I mean, certainly it's a private business. I mean, one of the concerns that's been raised is that, these hotels were not intended to be used as apartments,
Yeah.
but rather to support our business community.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I'm not sure, beyond sort of raising awareness and concern.
Sure.
I know that other communities who are listed here are experiencing have similar concerns, and so, sharing this letter would be helpful.
So the additional responsibility that falls to Westborough with these households here, in the sort of the disproportionate responsibility among communities, has there been any discussion with the state about compensation? I mean, it costs Westborough, these people, when they're in the hotels, when they're in the shelter, they are Westborough residents. Even though that might be temporary. But as the state is relocating people here, there's a cost impact to the school department, there's a cost impact for police and fire, there's a cost impact for, our community development department is noted in here. Has there been any discussion about compensation from the state to offset some of the burden?
There has, and there is some funding available. Our concern is really about resources. Individuals that come here that are in need are, in addition to some of the things that are listed, are, potentially using the food pantry or other things. And again, we want to be very clear that we welcome that partnership. It's just the idea that there are 16 out of 351 cities and towns that are being asked to support this issue.
Yeah, I personally, I completely agree with it. I think sending the letter, I think putting the chair of the select board on there just as a signatory, I would support that. I think showing that, the town is, we're in this together, and I echo, we're here to support. Westborough always has been, but we expect others, this is a statewide issue, as you said, Christy, and we expect others to do it. I think we should ensure that our residents know, and if they want to reach out to our legislators and others, and I know our legislators have been great. They have been phenomenal with this, and they are very supportive of it, but, sometimes you have to be loud and have a lot of voices there, and I think that, again, it's not asking them to say we don't want them here, we do. We just want it to be fair and equitable and others, and I didn't know. And in fact, I'm shocked right now that there's only 16 communities in the Commonwealth doing this. It is a statewide crisis. You hear it everywhere. I think it has to get out there that I know that there's more than 16 communities that have extended stay and hotels and other facilities that could participate here. So fully supportive of the letter. And I do think hopefully the board will agree that to put our signature on that as well.
I guess I'm wondering, although it might not make it as nice and neat, if it is as if it would be equally impactful, or more so, I should say, for all of us to sign. So I know it's the chair, it's the chair of the select board, it's assumed we've given permission, but I think that all of us signing would be my preference.
That's fine.
And
That's
then
fine.
I would also ask that once we do that, that this be maybe a link through on the FAQ.
Yes.
I think that'd be helpful.
Yep. Fully agree with that. I'm happy, and we've had them before with
Yeah.
changes of signatures, but I think,
We could sign small.
no,
No, that's fine.
it doesn't have to be small.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Well, it's up to you. I don't know if potentially it was a second version of this same letter, or would it be better if we were all on?
I think we're all in the same, all in one letter.
Yeah, that's fine. I just have to clean this up.
Add that.
Right, add that back in. So we'll just let
Yeah.
you know when it's ready for signature. I just wanted, just to echo what Ian said, and I'm sorry I didn't already say it, the delegation has been wonderful. And not only have they been responsive to our individual emails to them, myself, Superintendent Bach, the chiefs, but also they participate in all of our calls with the state. So, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Patrick, did you want to?
Yeah, just so I can't really add any more that hasn't already been said. I support everything that has been mentioned so far, and I really do appreciate, Christy, you and all the departments getting involved. It's a very complex topic, and it deserves the attention you all are giving, so thank you. My question is a little bit on a side note. I've never dealt with a lodging license, and I'm just wondering, since our, for lack of a better word, complaint right now with the state is the backfilling at the hotels, do we I'm imagining as a licensing authority for the lodging, do we have the authority to modify the licenses for those establishments so that they're not being used for long-term residents, because they weren't designed. I mean, some of them I'm sure are designed with kitchenettes in them and such, but many of them I'm imagining are not. So I'm just curious, do we as a board have the authority to modify those licenses to prevent long-term stay?
I'm not sure that they're out of compliance, so, which is typically when you would call someone in. I also would want to understand any unintended consequences, because there are people who are here for business. I also don't think that we want to, I think that we want the state to listen to us through this and make other arrangements. We don't want to put folks, and I know you don't either, in a position where now they actually can't, now they don't have a place to stay. I mean, we want people to have a place to stay. We just want all of the cities and towns to be locating them, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just curious what the options are available to the town. I'm imagining that the state should be looking at what capabilities are across the state. Sounds like only 16 communities have been identified as viable for the solution that they've designed here. So, are there other communities that are, I'll say, falling short? And maybe as part of that is because of the way that they've designed their lodging license. So just putting it out there, I have no experience with lodging licenses. I don't know, if that's a viable option or not. And I certainly do support supporting these folks in our community as much as possible. But I am concerned with the continued increase in the burden on the town. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, I just want to comment, I think, and as noted in the thing, I think most of these are an extended stay, which I think by their license, I mean, I know that prior to this, we've had families in there working and families in the schools for a year at a time and things like that. So I think they're designed for that with kitchenettes. It would be, if they're staying ones that aren't, full kitchens, I think, in a lot of them, yeah. The comment that I want to make, too, with Christy, as you said, is, I mean, the impact there, though, is those were built for our business community. So I'm wondering whether there's any input we've received or would seek from our business community in terms of supporting this as well.
The chamber, maybe.
Or the chamber, perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, I think I haven't actually received any input at this point from the business community, but I do think that, one of the things that we've talked about is, making sure the EDC is aware of this letter and potentially having a similar conversation.
Perfect.
Would there be any benefit to sharing this letter with, I don't know, the House Leader and the Senate President? I mean, they're authorizing funding for some of this. When we're talking about equity across communities, I don't know. Maybe that's a question for our representatives. I don't know if that would fall on deaf ears, but if nothing else, it's a heads up from a community that's doing more than its part.
So I did speak with Representative Kane and Representative Donahue about it. Representative Donahue expressed that they're working on a letter as well. And Rep. Kane, I had reached out to her asking kind of who she thought we should send this along to. So I don't think that there's a downside to sending it to anyone. But her initial, or my initial thought was that we would send it to the governor.
Yeah.
So you don't need a motion.
Sean,
right
Renee,
this
just
morning.
another,
Patrick, go ahead.
sorry, just one quick follow-up question if I can. Just on that note of extending the participants in the letter, similar to the letter that we wrote about the library a few months ago, I'm wondering if there's any opportunity, as we've identified 16 other communities. I'm imagining that many, if not all of them, are experiencing the same concerns and perhaps issues within their communities. Is there any advantage to also expanding to have it as a joint community letter to bring more attention to it as well?
I think that's the intent, is to share our letter with other communities, because I think given that we're in regular communication with the state, with the shelter coming in, I think we felt like it was important to get this in writing more quickly, but definitely, there could be a future joint letter from other communities. We weren't in discussions with the state prior to the siting of the shelter in Westborough, so we're in a sort of a different situation right
Blessing and
now.
a
Right.
not, right, but it is good that we have that direct line.
Mhm.
Okay.
So a vote, I guess originally not required. Does it make sense now?
Yeah, you could vote to support the letter, and I'll just finalize it and let you know.
And inclusive of signing, all
Right.
5 members signing. So moved.
Second.
All right. Roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Edinburgh, yes?
Marshall, yes.
Keough, yes. Christie, thank you very much.
Thank you to you and Amber and all others who are involved in.
Absolutely. Chiefs.
taking- Yep, chiefs.
Thanks.
Next, we have National Grid easement on 123 Fisher Street amended.
So the board did take this up in November, and it was prior to us getting our changes back from town council. This is the approval of an easement that you were authorized to approve at the October town meeting. And so it's coming before you now because it's ready for approval. I'm just, so just to give you an idea, it was reviewed by DPW. It's at 123 Fisher Street on property that's currently used by the DPW. So they're comfortable with it. Town council is comfortable with it. One of the biggest changes between this one and the one that you approved previously is an additional paragraph. The second to last paragraph on the easement was just put in by town council, and I think it's standard easement language.
So I move pursuant to the authority granted under Article 27 of the October 17th, 2022 special town meeting to approve and execute an easement with National Grid on property located at 123 Fisher Street.
Second?
Thank you, and I would just note here that it mentions specifically that this project, part of it is doing some VAR optimization, and one of the project goals is to reduce user bills by 3 to 5%. So I hope they're effective.
Part of our motion.
To guarantee.
Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Edinburgh, yes?
Marshall, yes.
Keough, yes. Okay. Thank you. All right, next, we have a request to approve the meeting minutes of March 28th, 2023. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at them?
So moved?
Second.
All right,
Thank you, Sheila.
we'll go to a roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes?
Johnson, yes.
Edinburgh, yes?
Marshall, yes?
Kehoe, yes. Okay. Now, next to issues and correspondence of the Select Board. Patrick, would you like to start, or do you want me to?
Do we need something?
I have nothing this week.
Nope, you're good, you're good? Save it for next one?
Good. Yep.
All right, thank you. Anybody?
Sure, I will jump in. First of all, as we know, it was a tough week in town and for our first responders. The situations that we never want to see, both here in Westborough, but also our first responders helping out in Hopkinton, and unfortunately, people perishing. So I just want to send our best wishes out, and thanks to our first responders, but just let them know that we're thinking about them. This is say not what they sign up for, but they do their best. They go in and try to protect everyone. So just let all of them know that we're thinking of them. The other quick things, and Sean, you might be stealing this from you, but Trustees of Soldiers Memorial, the dedication of the new Militia and Minutemen Memorial is again this coming Saturday, 10 a.m. Planned to be done in a half hour, because I know there's a fire truck thing happening at Hastings at 11, as we heard earlier, but hope folks can go out there and join in that celebration. What else did I have? Capital Expenditures Committee is meeting actually this Thursday to go over some proposed changes in vehicle purchases based on limitations that are out there. And finally, had a rec commission meeting last Tuesday evening, kind of standard type stuff in the rec commission, so nothing for board attention at this point, but continue to attend those meetings when they don't conflict with our board meeting.
Ian, thank you.
Yep.
A couple of quick things. One, I want to thank our Economic Development Coordinator, the volunteers from the EDC, and the town staff members who are at the Quarter 9 495 Business Expo. It's always a very well-attended event. It was also good to see a number of new businesses in Westborough who were having booths there and presenting and out and about in the community and marketing their services for the first time. There was, I'd say, fewer than half of the booths were repeat from prior years, so a lot of new businesses, which is good to see. Yesterday, the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust, again with the help of town staff, released an RFP for the removal of the existing building and reconstruction of a home at 3 Baylor Avenue. Developers interested can hit the website or the BidNet from the state system for Westborough's page and get the RFP. Responses are due 11 a.m. on June 9th. And on May 3rd at 10 a.m. here, there will be a bidder Q&A session followed by a site visit and walkthrough. So that project is actually moving forward
Great.
in a
Congratulations.
tangible, visible way. It's
That's
very exciting.
Congratulations.
Great job.
So.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan.
Alan, can I just say, is there like a notification process with demo to neighbors when that happens? I don't know.
Yes,
Is that standard?
as the project goes forward, the trust plans to provide information to the neighbors. The neighborhood is acutely aware that we own the home and are involved.
Maintaining the grass, all that
They,
good stuff.
whenever someone from the trust is there, because we've had engineers and surveyors, the neighbors come out, thank them. We've gotten thank you emails from the neighbors as well that we're acting on the property and making that a productive living situation again.
Great, thank you.
And they have to go, to that point, they have to go through the whole permit, so they have to get a
Yeah, the
demo
whole
permit and all
demo
that type of
permit.
I
stuff.
just
and all
didn't
that
know
stuff,
if-
yeah.
When I think demolition, I think noise and dust.
Yeah, This could very well be a whole bunch of people just pushing on one side of the building, but we'll see how it goes.
Alan, thank you. Thank you. Shelby?
Sure. So just want to thank Chrissy for mentioning about the progress for the Hockomock Reuse Committee. So we have, as she mentioned, our Conservation Director applied for that grant, and so UConn actually will be presenting to the committee at our meeting tomorrow, so that the committee has a chance to ask some questions, and so that's exciting to see that moving forward. The Waste Management Exploratory Committee is narrowing in on its recommendations to come to the board, and I would anticipate, obviously working with Christy and Sean, that meeting would be soon, in the next couple of weeks. So important that we keep focus on that for obvious reasons. Want to just make a plug for Unplugs Week coming up April 30th through May 6th. A broad collaborative effort with Westborough Connects and many, many community partners, too many to name here, but you can find more information on westboroughconnects.org for a schedule of events. And I also wanted to just mention or ask Christy, could we provide to committee and board chairs like a template for using our new seal for agendas and minutes? I don't know that we've done that. I've seen some inconsistencies, so we could have done it and people just aren't using it, but
No, we've never provided a template, but we can do that.
yeah, I think it would be, that would be good. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Shelby.
Yep.
Yeah, a couple things from me. This coming Tuesday, the 18th at 3:30, the Library Building Committee will be getting together, and we will be going over and approving the work plan for the architect and the owner's project manager. So if you're interested in that project, I welcome you to, the meeting will be fully remote. I welcome you to watch via the Zoom link. Second, as noted in the quarterly newsletter, on April 28th, the EDC is holding the Year in Review celebration. I will get another chance to provide a little more advertising for this at our next meeting, but it is Friday the 28th, 7:30 a.m. In the Forbes Municipal Building, celebration of a lot of the businesses in town, well-attended event, and I encourage folks to come by. That is all I had. So, Patrick, do you mind if I was there something else?
Nope. No.
If I enlist Alan to do the executive session?
Be my guest.
I'll make this quick-ish. I move to enter into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the firefighter and police supervisor unions, under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, RE Ferris Development LLC v. Town of Westborough, Lax Media LLC, and Lax Media MA LLC, Worcester Superior Court, CA number 2285CV01281. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 23A, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, RE Town of Westborough v. Westborough SPE LLC, Worcester Land Court, docket 19 TL 000768. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, RE 129 East Main Street, Town of Westborough v. Westborough Retirement Residence LLC, Worcester Superior Court docket number 2185CV00292. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, RE Residences of Westborough Station / Northland TPLP LLC, Worcester Land Court, case number 22 MISC 000445-DRR. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property at 1500 Union Street. under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to act under the authority of the Select Board to approve executive session minutes of March 28th, 2023, Sessions 1 and 2.
All right. I declare that an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the board's negotiating and litigating position. We will not be reconvening in an open session after the executive session. Could I get a second?
Second.
Take a roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes?
Johnson, yes?
Edinburgh, yes?
Marshall, yes?
Keough, yes. Thank you, Westborough TV. Good night, everyone.